Hey, hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakadash, double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect out here pushing truth and sincerity, the water for which I do. We love you. We appreciate you through the spirit of Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai. Shalom to y'all. All right, this is your brother Dawud Dad here, out of One Ratazah, meaning the Lord's will, here to give you an edifying lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai. And just jumping right into the lesson. This is going to be on the 12 disciples. All right, we're going to give their names and a little information on them. You know what I'm saying? And just it's going to be a quick one. Out of One Ratazah, we can do more in depth lessons on you know the history of the 12 disciples. The paths that they took and different things. For now, we're just gonna, just name them, try to get them in remembrance so that you can remember them and remember, their works and what they did. And without further ado, um, we're gonna go into it. All right, there's 3 books in the Bible that reiterate the same list of the names of 12 disciples and who they are, their relations, their surnames, right? And like little tidbits on them, all right, which is good. The little tidbits that they come with is good for remembering them. All right. So what I did is I just went through the list and I just wrote them all down and their surnames, and little tidbits to help me remember who they were. All right. So this is Matthew chapter 10. I start at verse 1. It says, "And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples," all right, that he is talking about Yahweh Shai, all right, "he gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease," right? So remember, Yahushua said you're going to do the things that I've done, the miracles I've made, and then you're going to do more. He said you're going to do even greater things, right? So he gave them power to do these things, and when Lord will, if we're part of the elect, we will have the same spiritual powers to have against unclean spirits and to cast them out and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease, man. You know what I'm saying? All right, Lord willing, man, we have those same spiritual powers. It says, "Now the names of the 12 apostles are these: the first, Simon, who is called Peter." So the first apostle, the head apostle, is Peter. Right? His surname is his name was Simon, but Yahweh changed his name to Peter. All right. It says, "And Andrew, his brother." So Peter and Andrew are brothers, all right? So, and I believe these are the ones they were out fishing, right? And he saw them. He saw them when they were out fishing. So these were fishermen, right? It says the first, Simon, who was called Peter. So that's a tidbit that you could, take little notes down. So if you write down Peter and you put whose name was Simon, that'll help you to remember who he is. And then to also his brother Andrew. So you write down Andrew, you put the brother of Peter. That's a good way to remember him. All right, you got James, the son of Zebedee. So you'll write James, the son of Zebedee. That's a good way to remember James, right? And just says John, his brother. So John is James's brother. So you'll put John, the brother of James. And more so, I believe that's James the Greater. So you'll put John, his brother, the brother of James the Greater. Now, the reason why, it don't say that in the scriptures here. But if you look them up, it's 2 James out of the 12 disciples. So usually you say James the Greater for the first, or you just say James the first. The other one says James the Lesser, right? But you could just put James the second, right? But not to confuse it with them being the first, related. So, or you put James number 1 and James number 2 to try to remember. So remember, there's 2 James, right? So it says James the son of Zebedee and John his brother. So you put John, the brother of James, number 1, or James the Greater. It says Philip and Bartholomew, and Thomas. Now the way that I remember this is, you say Philip and Bartholomew. So remembering one will make you remember the other one. That's how I remember it. So Philip and Bartholomew, or if I remember Bartholomew, I'll say Philip, right? But then it says Thomas. Now Thomas, when you look him up on Google, he was or when we read the scriptures, he had to see Yahushua come back. It's an account that you can read about him, how he kind of like doubted a little bit, right? And on Google they call him Thomas the Doubter. So you can kind of remember that, not to, of course, not to, you know, be you're not gonna be blasphemy when you say, oh, Slakia, that's just popped up, but it's kind of it's just a way to remember certain tidbits. Try to remembering the 12 disciples. He was kind of doubtful at one point in time, right? So he was kind of like nicknamed Thomas the Doubter by other people, pretty much, you know. Um, but not blasphemy or anything, not to go off, but you can remember that way. Thomas the Doubter, at first he was a little doubtful and whatnot. I believe there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just a way to remember him. Um, I mean, he's his disciple, so he's a great man. It says, and Matthew the publican, so that's what I write down. I put Matthew the publican to remember Matthew. Plus, he has a book. Well, it's a book called Matthew, right? And in the Bible, so kind of a good way to remember him as well. It says James the son of Alphaeus, so that's a good way to remember James, and also James the Lesser, you can call him, or James the Second if you don't want to put the lesser. All right. It says and Labius, whose surname was Thaddeus. So that's how I remember Thaddeus, right? I remember Thaddeus, but I remember that his surname was his name was Labius, and it was changed to Thaddeus. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Thaddeus, right? So that's an easy way to remember Thaddeus. His name was Labius, all right? Simon the Canaanite. Now, Peter, remember Peter's name was Simon first, but this is a different Simon, and you can remember that by saying Simon the Canaanite, right? Because I believe his father was a Canaanite. It says, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him, and that's the easy one. Judas is easy to remember because he betrayed Yahushua, but there's another Judas, um, right? So that these 12 sent forth, Yahushua sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, into any city of Samaritans, enter ye not, but go rather into the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's what we do, right? So that's what we do. We're sent out. And these are known as the apostles. The word apostle means to be sent out, all right? So now we got the next book that lists the disciples, which is Mark. That's a book that comes next, right? So Mark chapter 3 and verse, I believe, 13. Yeah, and it says, and he goeth up into a mountain and calleth unto him whom he would, and they came unto him, and he ordained 12 that they should be with him, and that he might send them forth to preach. Yeah, so these apostles, right? They sent forth to preach. The disciples are also known as the apostles, right? And to have power to heal sickness and to cast out devils. So Yahushua gave them the spiritual power, man. Lord willing, we be a part of that number. We can get spiritual power as well, man. Do the same thing that they did and more. It says, and Simon, he surnamed Peter. So remember, Simon had his name changed to Peter. Yahushua changed his name to Peter. So you can always remember Peter by his name being Simon, right? And it's beautiful because remember, there's another Simon, but you can remember him as Simon the Canaanite. So you got Peter, who his name used to be Simon. So if you write down the name, write his name Peter, and then just put who was named Simon, who was named, put Peter, who had his name changed from Simon, or just write equal sign Simon, so you can remember these things. There's little tidbits to help you remember, right? It says, and James, the son of Zebedee, you remember that, or James the Greater, or just keep it like that and put in James, the son of Zebedee, right? Yeah, right here is and remember, Andrew was Peter's brother, and you remember him that way, right? And John, the brother of James, see, and John, the brother of James, and he surnamed them Boanerges. Make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. Actually, you know what? I don't think it's gonna say it, but Boanerges. If I'm chopping it up, Salakia. but it says, which is the sons of thunder. So Yahushua renamed James and John and called them the sons of thunder, right? He didn't rename them, but he called them sons of thunder. It says, and Andrew, right? So Andrew, remember Andrew is the brother of Peter. So you can write that down, right? Andrew, the brother of Peter, whose name was Simon, right? It says in Philip. And remember, they usually put Philip and Bartholomew together. If you remember Philip, you remember Bartholomew. If you remember Bartholomew, you remember Philip, right? So it says in Matthew, remember the publican. It's not saying it here, but remember Matthew the publican, right? So that's how you remember that. It says in Thomas, remember Thomas the doubter. That's how I remember it. And James the son of Alphaeus, right? Or James the lesser, right? And Thaddeus, remember his name before was Labius, right? And Simon the Canaanite. There you go. So you can remember Simon by being Simon the Canaanite, right? Not Simon whose name was changed to Peter, whose surname was Peter, but Simon the Canaanite, right? And Judas the Iscariot, which is easy because remember he betrayed Yahushua, right? Which also betrayed him, and they went into a house. All right, so next book, which is the last book that lists the apostles or the disciples, is Luke chapter 6, I believe, verse 12. Let me see. So it says, and it came to pass in those days that he went out into a mountain to pray, and continued all night in prayer to Yahweh. And when it was day, he called unto him his disciples, and of them he chose 12, whom also he named apostles, which means to be sent out. Right? It says Simon, who he also named Peter, easy way to remember it, and Andrew his brother, easy way to remember Andrew, Peter's brother, James and John, right? Because James the greater, and then you had John, James' brother. So always remember that. Philip and Bartholomew, easy because you're always going to put Philip and Bartholomew together, side by side. If you remember Philip, you remember Bartholomew. If you remember Bartholomew, you remember Philip. Easy way to remember. That's all. Matthew, the publican, remember that always. And Thomas, the doubter, that's how I remember it. James, the son of Alphaeus. And Simon called Zealots, which that's a good way to remember too. But Simon, remember, Simon the Canaanite. That's a good way to remember that, right? And Judas, the brother of James. See, so there's another Judas, and Judas Iscariot, which also was a traitor. So you're always going to remember them that way. All right. So hopefully this will help you remember who the 12 disciples are, also known as the 12 apostles, which means to be sent out. And then yeah, man, write them down, put those tidbits next to it, and you can remember who the 12 disciples are. Hopefully, I don't want to wrap this out. We can go into deeper, attributes of all the apostles. Man, I like the spirit, if the spirit is willing, I like to do a lesson like that as well. So I'll try to do that shortly. For now, shalom, Barakatah Bashim Yashai, and shalom to the elect.